Hi everyone, Daria Strategy is here and I'm happy to have Santiago as the guest for this video. Santiago is DevRel for Web3 JS and he's passionate about simplifying complex technologies. He works with Solidity and JavaScript and focuses on the Ethereum ecosystem. Santiago, welcome. Please describe your background and how you came up with the idea to focus on dev experience.
Hi, Daria. So thank you so much for having me here today. It was great to see you in Brussels a couple of weeks ago. Um, I will say, okay, let me kind of tell you a little bit about my story and my background so we can understand how I got here today. Everything started around 2 years ago, more or less, when I decided to learn programming because I fell into a scam in crypto. So I was playing a game, then that was like a rug pull, and then I was like, okay, I want to understand more about this technology so I don't fall into scams again, right? And the only way to do this is learning the technology from the core. And then I was like, okay, what is the core of these things? And then I discovered that there was something called smart contracts. And to learn smart contracts, I noticed that it was better to start with something like JavaScript instead of jumping directly into Solidity. And then that's how everything started with some YouTube like playlists, tutorials, struggling a lot because when you do this with YouTube, maybe something is not working, but you don't really have a guide to ask like, hey, how can I change this? This is not working. This is the error that I'm getting in my laptop or whatever. So it was like a little bit frustrating in the beginning. I would say that this trajectory of learning took like around 1 year or 1 year and a half until I land my first job. Because I didn't have like any computer science background. I didn't study anything like technology before. So yeah, that was like the first thing and how everything started. Then after that, the first little steps that I was taking in blockchain or in Web3 was volunteering. I remember that I was living in Lisbon at that time, and there was like an event in Barcelona that is called the European Blockchain Convention,
Yeah,
and they
I
were
know.
looking for volunteers, right? And then I was like, okay, it will be interesting because the entrance was, I don't remember, it was kind of expensive, 400, 500 euros, I don't remember.
Yeah,
And
around this,
I was
yeah.
just a student. I was just a student. So I was like, okay, maybe I can volunteer to this event. But then I noticed that all the crypto events always have volunteers. So this is something that works for every Web3 event. So this is really useful. Then I went there as a volunteer. I started building my network, meeting other people, also exchanging knowledge with the volunteer, like, hey, what are you doing? How are you learning? And that's basically my first Web3 experience. Then after that, uh, I already kind of learned a little bit of like Solidity and JavaScript at that time. So I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to get my first job. But then I was facing another big issue. And this issue is about no one wants to give you your first job. Everyone wants Solidity developers, but no one wants to give you the first job. And I was like, okay, what should I do now? And then what I did was applying to all the jobs that you can imagine on LinkedIn, on crypto jobs, Web3 careers, everywhere. I applied for sure more than 100 jobs. I got like 3 interviews that were kind of to the next level. I
Hmm.
remember that I got one at Kleros that was really good for an internship, but at the end I didn't get that. And but then what happened that was like the game changer here was that I reached out to a guy on LinkedIn who was looking for a blockchain developer, and then I texted him like, "Hey, I'm looking for my first crypto experience, and I'm willing to work for free for a couple of months, like 3 months, as long as I'm able to learn something here, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, why not?" Like I shared him like my portfolio. There was like some like two simple dApps that I was building, like I built before. Um, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." And then he connected me with the senior developer at that time in that company. Um, I learned a lot. I built like a launchpad of ERC-721 tokens and ERC-20 tokens. So it was like pure like Solidity developer focus. Then after that, I just keep applying everywhere to any job. And then after like 3 months of doing that and also doing like a couple of boot camps more, I got my first job in Swisstronic. That was like my first DevRel experience. And I actually, it's funny because I didn't know how I got into developer relations because I didn't know what was that thing. I never heard about developer relations until I was just applying to everything in Web3, marketing, BD, developer. I just wanted to get into Web3 and then I will figure out which path was the best. And then I applied to this one, and then when I got the email back, like, "Hey, we want to interview you," and then I was like, "Okay, what is this thing?" And then I noticed that it was a DevRel application. So I need to figure out what is a DevRel. I was just reading through everything. Then I have the interview with the CTO at that time, Dennis, and then with the CMO, and yeah, and that's how I started like my first like a Web3 job with the career starting from YouTube, volunteering, this LinkedIn internship, let's call it like that. Then my first job, and now I'm here at Web3JS, which is for the people who don't know what Web3JS is. Web3JS is one of the oldest public goods of Ethereum. It was actually created in 2014. The only public good of Ethereum that is older than Web3JS is Solidity. So you can imagine like how
Yeah.
important and relevant Web3JS in the ecosystem. It has been around for almost 10 years. Like some of the main contributors to Web3JS have been like the ERC20 uh, token standard creator, Fabian Bogelsteller. He was also one of the creators of Web3JS like version 1. So yeah, I'm really happy to be now where I am today, being able to represent kind of like Ethereum and yeah, the Web3JS like ecosystem and the ambassadors. So yeah, that's kind of my main background, how I got started, and now where I am right now.
Great, great. Thank you very much. Your story is pretty cool. I think like now you became that person that you needed before when you learned everything about Solidity and when you tried to dive deeper into the ecosystem and into the blockchain space. Okay, so how do you help developers to have this better experience?
That's a good question. I think I help the developers in two different ways. So the first one is, let's say, the coding experience. So from the coding experience, what we are trying to do from Web3JS is providing all the resources that we can in different ways, written tutorials, videos, even tweets with some things that can just catch their attention or can teach them something in one tweet. Like for example, some people didn't know that Web3JS is compatible with all the EVM blockchains that are more than 300. So I just tweet something about that, and then I didn't know that. Now I can use Web3JS with all the EVM networks. So just by publishing as many resources as possible, also doing like workshops or even like talks to just reach more communities, more developers. So that's the first thing that I will call the coding experience, like for the developers. And then the second thing, which is actually my favorite, is the community experience. So from the community experience, I will say that's like my main focus right now. The main thing that I'm doing now is the Web3JS Ambassadors program. So with this Web3JS Ambassador program, it was a crazy idea that I had 4 months ago, basically, and then I just brought this idea to change it. Like, hey, what if we start this Web3JS Ambassador program? Is basically like a unpaid position for people, but then what I want to do is to give people in Web3 their first opportunity to build their personal brand or to learn coding skills or to do whatever, kind of doing what I just mentioned with the LinkedIn internship, but in
Yeah.
a different way and more community oriented. So also bringing this community experience to a lot of developers. That's something really fulfilling for me. I really love doing this. So far the progress that I have been doing, kind of going with this Web3JS ambassadors, we have around 15 ambassadors that are really active. We got 200 applications that now we are still interviewing some people to join the team. And some of the ambassadors, I give them the opportunity to speak about Web3JS in local events. So that's really fulfilling for them. Like if you never have a Web3, just even like a DevRel experience, and now you're able to speak about Web3 in an event, that's like something really, really interesting for the developers. So one guy from Togo just spoke in an event like last week. I'm going to Berlin to speak in Web3 Summit in 2 weeks, and I'm speaking there with an ambassador. So we are actually hosting the
Hmm.
workshop together. So they are like really happy, like they've never done something like that in their life. And speaking about Web3JS is really nice. So I just try to bring as many opportunities for the ambassadors now, and just building this Web3 community experience. And even we have like coffee chats every Saturday. So every Saturday I'm bringing guests. I will also bring you there in a few Saturdays as well. That would be really nice because they're just happy to also meet other people in Web3 related to any type of things like
Yeah, yeah.
marketing, BD, developers, engineers. So yeah, I also started with this initiative of having like Saturday coffee chats. So we are having
Mm-hmm.
Saturday coffee chats. Actually, tomorrow we are inviting someone from Open Zeppelin, a researcher from Open Zeppelin, and yeah, they're just really excited with that. So that's how basically Santiago at Web3GS and Chainsafe, we are kind of bringing different developer experience from the coding experience and then the community experience as well.
Cool, cool. It's very inspiring, and I am sure that's very helpful to developers. So, can you? So, you shared a bit about your duties during your working day, but maybe you can share a bit more about what you're doing during your working day.
Okay, so what do I do during my working day? That's actually a really good question because being a DevRel, sometimes, and I'm speaking for a lot of DevRels because in Brussels I was meeting with a lot of DevRels and I hear the same from everyone. Sometimes we have no idea what we have to do. You just have some goals and then you need to figure out how to get there, right? So that's basically based on the business goals of the company. But then some of the things that I do day by day can be the main one was like working in documentation, improving the documentation. But sometimes documentation is just in the beginning you work a lot until you reach certain point, and then okay, you kind of leave it a little bit in the side, and then you focus on something else. Um, what I do a lot is meeting a lot of meetings with the developers, like from the products itself, like from Web3GS, with the core developers, the product manager, the project manager. Also meeting with BD. Sometimes if there are like some things that they want to do, certain campaigns, meeting with the marketing team, and also with the product team in case that we have some changes, some feedback from developers. So it's just like a lot of meetings with different departments. This is like a really cross-departmental role. Um, Another thing is the workshops. Like I plan a lot of live workshops. So right now I'm planning this workshop in for Web3 Summit in 3 weeks, or sometimes talk. I just applied to DEF CON as well to speak there in November.
Me too.
And then, oh really? Okay,
Yeah.
will be nice. How we get accepted? And we'll meet there
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I hope. I hope.
Yeah, yeah. And the last thing that I do in my day by day now that it takes a lot of time is the ambassadors. Like right now with the ambassadors, that's literally can be 5 minutes a day or 3 hours a day. Like you never know because sometimes they text you, they want something, the code is not working, and I'm just really happy. For example, last week I met with one guy that he was showing a lot of initiative. He wanted to do his first contribution to an open source project. And then I told him like let's have a meeting. And then we just met like for 30 minutes. I showed him how to contribute to the Web3.js documentation. And yesterday his pull request just got merged into the Web3.js documentation. So he was really happy with his first contribution. Also helping them to get ideas for making videos or supporting them with the code. Like, I don't know why this is not working. Can you take a look at this code or things like that? And yeah, and then with the coffee chats or just one-on-ones, because sometimes they just want to talk to me or to ask me for any advice or something. So yeah, this is basically my day-to-day task, documentation, ambassadors, preparing live workshops, and then meetings, a lot of meetings, marketing, developers, and BD.
Okay, thank you. So, how can you evaluate the current state of developer experience in Web3?
I think that the current state of the DevX in Web3 is pretty good. Like we are building a lot of tools in general. I'm not speaking only for Chainsafe or Web3.js, but I have seen that everywhere there are like more SDKs being created every day. And the main functionality of these SDKs is just abstracting kind of code or complexity for the developers. So the final developer that is building an app can make something really, really easy. For example, just to give you an example of this developer experience, when you have MetaMask and sometimes you want to change your network from Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain, and then you click switch network, you see that MetaMask like pop up and then it say like
Yeah.
switch network, right? To do this under the hood, like in the code, you need to write like let's say 20 lines of code with some things like to change the link, the URL, like some different things, the block explorer. That was like the old way. But now, for example, with let's say Web3 plugins or with a normal SDK, a developer don't need to write these 20 lines of code, and now they can only call one function, which is one line, and then that will pop up in the front end for the user to switch the network. So I think this kind of level of abstraction of a lot of code and complex things is getting better because now we are just being more efficient. We are understanding more the developer experience, getting a lot of feedback in general. And I think the Ethereum community is really developer kind of centric and focused. So yeah, I think the developer experience is not where I will like to be yet, but we are getting closer to that point.
Okay. Maybe you know how many Solidity devs are now in the world?
Oh, I saw that one time in one of the report of, I forgot this company. There was like one company that always put that report every year of developers, and I remember that I read that, but I don't remember specifically. And they say blockchain developers, and I don't know if blockchain developers covers Solidity developers or dApp
Rust.
developers or Rust or everything, right? So I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know, but that was, if that comes to my mind, I will tell you, what was the actually, just give me a second. I want to tell you the specific name that was, I think I have it here of the report.
Because
Uh,
somewhere I heard about 300,000, and it's not enough, so we need more.
yeah,
But actually, I wanted to ask you, do you think if we need more devs?
Electric Capital. That was the report that I read from Electric Capital. And let me tell you three things. I covered this thing, and then I will answer to your question if we need more. But I remember that I covered these three things when I was speaking at ETH Denver in March. Like developers overall are down 24% this year, and newcomer developers dropped to 52% year by year. So that means that every year we
Yeah.
have less new developers, right? So that was like not great. And then in 2023, the monthly active developers fell by 25%. So all this data, I took it from the Electric Capital report, but that was in 2023. Now 2024 is improving a little bit. Like sadly, I feel like the developer, let's say engagement or sometimes the developer activity is also tied to the value of Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything, right? So this is kind of also like a correlation. The
Yeah.
more the ballroom we are, the more the developers we have as well. Um, I don't think we need, I mean, we need more Solidity developers. Why not? But I would say that it's not focusing about if we need more or not, and it would be more focusing about the quality, because that's why we also see some hacks around. Because we can have a lot of Solidity developers, but if they're doing a bad job or they're not focusing on security, then what's the point of having 1,000 apps, but then 900 of them are kind of shit, right? So it's better it's
Yeah.
better to have 100 good developers than 1,000 medium like developers. So yeah, I will say like focusing on improving, upskilling, and getting better will be better than focusing on getting even more.
Yeah, I agree with you. What protocols or technologies are most interesting in terms of building projects? Do you have some examples? I
Yeah, I
mean,
will
in
say,
blockchain space.
yeah, oh yeah, I will say that my favorite kind of thing, I have two. Let's say that I have two right now. One is DeFi in general, because I feel like DeFi is the base of blockchain. Like if there is no DeFi, then there is no like money going around. There is no decentralization of the money here. So I think like everything related to DeFi, when I was learning about these liquidity pools in Uniswap, how you add liquidity, and then how this is so decentralized that when you make a swap, you're actually taking the money from someone else that put the money there, and this is just like a sustainable, uh, community-driven finance world, right? So that's like a really interesting for me since the beginning. Like DeFi was like, wow, really, really interesting. And then the second thing that I think has a lot of potential, and I'm focusing more into that as well, is the interoperability. So I think interoperability will have a bump this year and next year as well, because we are just having a lot of blockchains and then the liquidity is spreading everywhere. But then if we can
Yeah.
get an interoperability protocol or something that can put all this liquidity together into one, and then if you as a user just sign up to a website or to a app and you don't really care about, oh, I have this in Ethereum, oh, I have this in Binance Smart Chain, that's a headache, right? So I think this interoperability slash account abstraction will be the next boom. And I really like that. Right now, I'm getting closer into that as well. I'm actually joining in Chainsafe, like within Chainsafe. I'm also joining as a DevRel of two products that are related to interoperability. One is Sigma, which is a bridge, and one is a Sprinter, will be like an aggregator of account abstraction as well. So yeah, I think these two topics of DeFi and interoperability are really good as well.
Great, thank you. Can you describe a portrait of a Web3 developer? Do you have, or maybe do you know some specific characteristics of this Web3 developer?
I'm trying to think about the ambassadors because the ambassadors are the perfect example of what is a Web3 developer, right? I will say the first characteristic that a Web3 developer has is that they are really community oriented. They really care about collaborating with people, helping people. Just going to Twitter and if someone is asking a question, a random person will come here and answer and help you, right? So it's really also the same in GitHub when you publish an issue. For example, when someone publishes an issue in Web3.js repo, sometimes I go there to answer the issue and another developer from the community already reply, or same in Discord. So it's really community oriented and also collaborative. Yeah, that's collaborative, how you say it. Another thing can be proactive. Proactive, at least I don't know if when you are a senior, you are still really proactive. I don't really know, but all the beginners, all the people that are getting into Web3, they come here really hungry. They just want to work, and do more things. So I will say that they're really proactive. They just want to conquer the world. And I'm saying the same for my case. I was like that. So I'm still like that. No, I was like that. I'm still like that, like really proactive, just doing a lot of things that are not even part of my job, but I love to do it. Like for example, this ambassador thing, that was never part of my job description or that I have to do. And that was just my proactivity that I was like, I want to start this. This is part of how I feel fulfilled in life. So this gives me purpose. This gives me like waking up every day at 6, 7 a.m. to work and enjoy my job. So yeah, proactivity is also another one. So they take a lot of initiative. They just do a lot of things. A really good example is people like hosting workshops, online events like you. What you are doing right now, you are taking the initiative of doing these
Yeah.
interviews because you are just like proactive and you just want to take initiative and do more things, right? Like this is not something that you are like let's say starting a business or getting rich with out of these things, right? You are just doing this for the community. So I think just taking initiative is a lot of it's really into a Web3 portrait of a Web3 developer
Hmm.
or person in general. And then something else, the last thing will be that they are really concerned about security and privacy. Like they are really passionate or sometimes really into decentralization. So that's why sometimes we see a lot of people, let's say without profile photo or without the real name or really like
Announce.
into, yeah,
Announce. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's also part of not of all the people, but most of the Web3 mainly developers are also really into this of just yeah, being like really into anon, caring about security, privacy, and decentralization. So yeah, these are like the main things: community oriented, collaborate. I don't know. I have issues with this word.
Collaborative.
Community, yeah,
Yeah.
community oriented, collaborative, proactive, initiative, and then concern about security and kind of anons sometimes.
Question.
Yeah.
Santiago, you came from Colombia, you lived in Portugal and in Finland. So, what can you say about the local communities? I mean, blockchain communities.
So yeah, I'm from Colombia. And then I moved to Portugal like 4 years ago, and I've been getting into the European communities. Only this year, I went to like 7 different countries to give workshops in European countries. So I went to, okay, let me kind of give you an overview of like one by one. The first one that I went here was in Oxford. So I went to Oxford University because to give a workshop for starters, for beginners there. The community there was great. It was like more students. So it was really interesting to see this type of Web2 developers or not even pure developers just trying to get into Web3 to understand Ethereum, to understand what is like this Solidity and smart contract things. So I saw this kind of they were really eager to learn, eager to get it into Web3. So that was really nice. And in Oxford, which is one of the top
Yeah.
universities in the world, so that was like a really good experience to see other side of the coins, right, of the community. Then I went to Eat Bucharest. I went to Eat Zurich and Eat Tallinn. I would say that these three, the community were really similar, like just kind of pure European developers in Estonia, in Romania, and and Switzerland. Okay, I would say that Switzerland was actually less tech developer focused and more like BD, more business related
Really?
because there was also yeah there was no hackathon when I went to Eat Zurich. There was no hackathon, so it was more like a conference. So I didn't have the chance to see like a lot of developers and more like a BD, DevRels, founders, and things like that. But then Eat Bucharest and Eat Tallinn, they were great because there was a hackathon there. So I have like the chance to speak to developers, to give the workshop to developers and interact with developers. I actually like participated in the hackathon in Italian as well. So hacking and being around developers is something that I feel like more like comfortable and a little bit happier than with BD people. But yeah, this type of communities were really also, I would say like the term can be hungry just for knowledge. They just want to learn. They don't really care about the money. Something really interesting, oh yeah, that I want to mention today is 1 year ago when I was working in a project, I had some budget to do activities for developers, right? And then they just told me at that time, like, you have this budget and you do whatever you want with that. Our idea is that maybe we can give $200 to every developer so they can join our Discord, register, or whatever, right? And I was like, okay, I don't know if the best way to distribute the funds is to just give the money, right? So I did a survey at that time, only with some kind of network that I have on LinkedIn, asking friends and things like that, asking the developers what do they prefer as kind of prize when winning a hackathon or a bounty or something like that. And I give four options. One was learning resources, so they can learn something new. One was money, like monetary rewards. Another one was career development, like opportunities. And then the other one was recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of these four, the last one was the monetary rewards. So they were not really caring about the money. And the first one was like learning opportunities, like learning new things and career
Mm-hmm.
development opportunities. So these two were the first one. And then I understood, okay, the developers here, and also the demographic was mainly in Europe, US, some in Africa and Asia. It was like really diverse. And that was interesting to understand, okay, developers don't really care about the money. They care more about learning resources and career development opportunities. And that makes sense. When I was starting and I told you about this LinkedIn experience, I just wanted to work to get my first experience, right?
Yeah.
To get knowledge. So that's like the perfect example that developers here don't really care about just give me money and mainly about what I can learn from this and how this will help me to succeed in my career or how it's like related to my personal or professional goals. So that was really interesting to understand this because I thought a different thing. Like I thought that money was what make people moves, right? But in this case was not like that. So that was like really good to see. And then the third option was the recognition. That was also interesting for them, but not like the main thing for developers. So this was really interesting to understand about the quality of the developers, of what they think, their mindset. And then now talking about Africa, I would say that Africa, I don't want to judge Latin America, the US, or Europe, but Africa is really one of my favorite regions because I feel like they are really really into this. Like they really want to
Mm-hmm.
learn. And I think this is something that personally happened to me as well. We see Web3, I mean, Santiago and the people from Africa, maybe people from LATAM, like from developing countries like Colombia,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, or Ghana, Kenya. We see Web3 as a escape. This is my personal experience, so I want to say like this. This Web3 is the opportunity to break the poverty cycle that we have,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I think that I'm not the only one that is seeing this as the same way. So that's why I think in Africa they also see this with the same eyes that I was looking at Web3 a few years ago. And that's why they are so eager to learn, eager to participate in hackathons. So that's why I think Africa is one of my favorite ones. And yeah, that's why I will be going to Africa next month to actually host like a Web3 JS Africa tour.
Which countries will you visit?
Mm, I will go to Ghana. There is ETH Accra. I will go to Nigeria. There is Web3 Lagos conference and hackathon. And then I will finalize with Kenya. There is ETH Safari. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to speak in the three different events. But then I'm also besides that I'm hosting like a local meetup and workshop in a private hub in every country, and I'm also going to a couple of universities in Kenya to get like the same thing that I did in Oxford, getting people more like because a student is a different target audience than a developer in a hackathon. So it's like a different type of workshop that I will do there. Going to universities, just kind of spreading the word a little bit. About what is Ethereum, what is decentralization, what is a node, like more about the theory and a little bit of coding and hands-on workshop. because sometimes they don't know how to code 100%. So yeah, but at least explaining MetaMask, Block Explorer, things like that. So yeah, we'll go to these 3 countries and host these 3 different like things as the Africa tour.
I have heard about at Safari in Kenya that that they have quite high level of organization and really cool experience for speakers.
I actually applied as a speaker and got accepted, and then I never read the like the PDF that they have with all the information. But then
Yeah.
I book my Airbnb in Nairobi for 2 weeks, and then when I after everything they send me the PDF, and then I noticed that half week is in Nairobi and half week is in somewhere else in the coast in Kilifi. And then that was like a really nice experience because you start in Nairobi, but then you take a train to the coast, and during that train you can see like a mini safari. Like you will see lions, zebras, giraffes everywhere. So it's like a really unique experience. And also let me share something more like personal with you here about Africa. 5 years ago, 5 years ago, going to Africa was one of my biggest dreams. I don't know why. And I watched all the documentaries in Netflix and YouTube. I saw everything about the elephants, the gorillas. And then in 2019, I went there. I went to Africa. I was there for the idea was a 3 weeks volunteering, and I ended up in a 8 months kind of backpacking and doing a lot of things in Africa. And I have like a really special feeling for Africa. I don't know why. At that time I went to Kenya and Uganda. So this time I'm going to 2 new countries, Nigeria and Ghana. So I'm really happy. But yeah, I just have something for Africa that is there because this Web3JS Africa tour could be done in India or maybe Asia to go to different countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, right? But I was just trying to point to Africa. But I noticed that Nigeria is a really strong Web3 country. So yeah, that
Hmm.
helps a lot. That helps a lot to sell the idea of a Web3JS Africa tour and get the people connect with you in this idea of yeah, let's go to Africa and support that. So yeah, that's something that I noticed about Africa, that they are really good and it's a very amazing organization. Yeah.
Great, great. I wish you the best trip to Africa and inspire more people to learn Web3GS and Solidity and all the things
Thank you.
connected
Thank you. It would
with
be
blockchain development.
it will be sad that I'm not able to go to Poland to eat Warsaw. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I wish you could. Yeah, but we can do next week. So I'm
Yeah.
sure
Perfect.
next week. Oh, sorry, next week we can do
Next
this
time.
next year. Next year,
Yeah.
yeah, next year.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the skills. You mentioned that you have to be a public speaker and you have to make friendship with many people. Public speaking, marketing, and design skills are necessary to become a successful developer advocate.
Okay, that's a good question. I think developer relations in general has like different branches. I don't know them on top of my mind, but something like developer advocate, developer evangelism, developer relations engineer. So there are like different type of things. And sometimes depending on what you want to do or what are the needs for the company. I will say that being a well-rounded DevRel will be better to help you get a job or to at least, yeah, to at least get started somewhere instead of focusing on something like that you are really good. Because if you are really good at public speaking, but you are not really good at coding, then that will be like a big gap that for some companies is
It's
okay.
not about development.
Yeah, exactly. You can still do some workshops, but maybe not super deep. For maybe you can do
Yeah.
talks, but you cannot do workshops, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. I prefer that being like well-rounded and knowing a little bit of everything will help you a lot to be good at being a DevRel. So public speaking can be one, not mandatory because I know a lot of DevRels in the industry that they don't need to speak, they don't need to do a workshop, so they don't need to make videos, but they just need to have like great documentation or maybe connecting with some people online, texting or whatever. So public speaking is not a must, but it's a really nice to have. So public speaking is really good. Marketing, I think, is a good one. Yeah, if you know marketing, so you know how to get into the developers, right? Like the type of language to get to the developers, how to speak to them, what they want from you or what they are expecting from your product or from you as a person, right? So I think marketing is a good one. I would say design. Not really. Design maybe is not at least in my position. Maybe some other DevRels will need more design, right? But I need some basic design to do some documentation, some basic structuring, some CSS things, but that's not really deep. So I would say like in terms of skills, what you can do or you can polish to be a great DevRel will be public speaking. That's a really nice to have. Documentation. If you can try to get really deep into the documentation and then allowing developers to go from 0 to 100 with your docs in a nice structure, in a nice language, breaking down the coding. So that will be really good for your portfolio and your skills. So documentation as well. Communication skills in general are really important, even if it's not public speaking, at least being able to communicate properly with people over Slack, over Telegram, that's really important, or when you go to network in the events and maybe good enough at programming. I would say depending on the product, right? Because sometimes if you are a DevRel for a bridge or something or a DeFi, I think you need to know more than basic Solidity, right? But if you are a DevRel for a layer one that is not really complex or a layer two, something like a little bit more basic that doesn't have a lot of
Mhm.
complexity, you don't need to be an expert in coding, but you can just be good enough and then really good at your product because you just need to learn your product really well and then that's the perfect mix, right? And then the bonus I would say can be networking. That's not a
Mhm.
must, but you don't need to be good at networking to be a DevRel. But if you are good at networking, that can boost a little bit your career, your opportunities and everything. So I think like networking is really good. Just trying to go to different events, trying to talk to people, like thanks to my networking, I'm here with you, right? Otherwise we'll not be here today. Because yeah, we saw each other. I say hi in Brussels. So yeah, those little things can make a big difference. And we don't even know what can be the outcome of this conversation. Maybe
Yeah,
after this,
yeah.
so someone will look at me on the video and then they will help me leveraging the ambassador program or they will invite me somewhere else. So that's the thing. You never know. You just need to be
Yeah.
proactive and this comes with the networking. So I think those skills of public speaking, documentation, great communication skills, being proactive, good enough at coding, I will say, and then the bonus of networking. Those six things are really good to have as a DevRel.
Yeah, thanks. Thank for sharing. You had a speech at SCC. Can you share a bit about the topic and your experience? I mean, to be in the stage at SCC, at the biggest community event during the year. So,
Uh,
how it was?
okay, yeah. I think I feel really good because I am always over prepared. I stress a lot before doing a workshop. I really work a lot into the presentation, into the coding, trying the workshop a couple of times. So I know that if I get an error, at least that I get the error now. So when I get the error in the workshop, because that's common that you get errors when you are doing the workshop, at least you know where the error is coming from. So I just prepare a lot. It was really nice to be there. Yeah, this is one of the biggest events. But I was not as nervous as I was, for example, at Eat Denver, because Eat Denver was my first one. So I was like, yeah, a little bit struggling there. Also, the flying to the US, that was like a long flight. I was tired. So East Denver was a little bit more challenging. HCC was a shorter flight. I was more prepared because I've done like 10 workshops this year. So this was the 11th workshop, just one
Mm-hmm.
more, right? So it was way easier. Um, but it was as always, I'm really excited of speaking. Like every workshop, even if it's a small venue or a 100 people event or 1000 people event, like I feel the same. I feel the same pressure, the same preparation, the same I put the same effort into everything just to deliver the best of the best because normally they upload these workshops to YouTube and everything, so that will be live there, right? And I want to give like a a great impression of Santiago and Web3GS and the people that I'm representing. So yeah, it was a pleasure to be there. But I would say one of my favorite ones was at Oxford. To be honest, being at Oxford, that was something that I didn't expect, right? That was something like, wow, I'm here at Oxford today teaching these students. So that was something like
It's
really,
an
really,
honor. Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's an honor. Yeah.
yeah, right, yeah. And I don't even have like a university degree. So being there, like I will say like my initiative got me here, right? Like I'm here now teaching these Oxford students and thanks to YouTube, right? Like thanks to YouTube, I got the basic JavaScript knowledge and everything. So that's like a really good example that it's not where you come from, but it's more about how eager you are to fight for the things that you want. That's what will make you go wherever you want, right? So it's not where you come from, it's just about your initiative and proactivity. So yeah, that's my shares into this, like eat Oxford, eat Denver, and eat CC.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I think it's really big honor to understand, like to realize that you did this and now you're teaching these students who have access
Yeah,
to many things. They have a lot of teachers, and you teach them because you have this unique experience.
yeah,
So,
I feel great to be honest.
what can you recommend to people who want to grow their network in Web?
I think there is one word. One time a cousin shared with me a really nice image. I will send you this after the this interview. That is show up. Everything was kind of like summarized in this word, show up. And by show up, it means like you should just show up to that event that is next week that you're kind of lazy of going or not. Just show up and just go there. Oh, there is an event that I can volunteer next week. Should I go or not? Yeah, just show up and go there. Because when you do these things and you just show up, that will bring opportunities that you never expect in your life. So I think this show up everywhere in Web3, wherever you can sign up for that online hackathon that you saw online. Just go there and show up. The worst thing that can happen is that you don't win, but you learn something new or you meet nice people. So just show up. That's the first thing that I would recommend. The second thing, maybe be active in social media. I think that helps a lot. Just publish like quality content on Twitter or LinkedIn, depends on what is like your reach, what you're trying to do. But just publishing different things on Twitter, LinkedIn will help a lot to build your personal brand, to get to new people, to reach different people, maybe even to recruiters. If your main goal is to get a job, maybe the recruiter will see that meme that you published 2 weeks ago, right? So doing this type of things can help you to grow your network. Um, and maybe if you are thinking more into DevRel, then try to do YouTube videos because when you do YouTube videos, that's way better than doing written content because people will see your face, people will start seeing your voice, following your code. Developers will start to follow you as well. So try to do videos as well. That's something that I always recommend to the ambassadors. Like just do YouTube videos.
Where to start if someone wants to learn more about building projects in Web3? Books, articles, videos, what can you recommend?
Uh, to get started into Web3, I will say like the first thing is to know JavaScript. So try to know JavaScript in different ways. In my way was YouTube videos, YouTube courses, because those are free. If you can invest some money or some extra time into doing a bootcamp, that will be better. Just be careful with the bootcamp that you choose because yeah, you need to do your research. But then I will say YouTube videos to get the first coding skills in JavaScript or a bootcamp. Then after that, you can jump into Solidity. Solidity, I would recommend Patrick Collins. He's the god here for every Web3
Mhm.
developer. Everyone knows him. Everyone watches his Web3 courses. He also teaches some kind of JavaScript things in his courses. But you can go from zero to hero in Solidity with Patrick Collins and Cypher now. That is like his company. So those are like the best resources. Then if you want to be a good DevRel, I will recommend a specific book that I read that was really nice, that gave me a lot of frameworks, different ideas, things to like ideas to talk to developers, how to deliver content and things like that. That is called Developer Relations, How to Build and Grow a Successful Developer Program. I read this book in my first job because my main task was to start a developer relations program from scratch, and I had no idea. That was my first developer relations job, so I was like, okay, I don't know where can I start to do this, right? So the first thing that came to my mind was to read this book. Then I just went to Amazon, I looked for in Kindle books, developer relations, how to build and grow a successful developer program, and I read this book, and there are like a couple of like graphs, like charts that I'm using from there that are really useful. So I would recommend this book. But what I will say that can be a game changer besides books, articles, videos, is a mentor or talking to people. So if you're able to have a mentor or to reach out to someone that is where you wanna be, that would be the perfect thing because they can tell you what they did and also what they did wrong. So you don't need to repeat that. So I think having a mentor will be the first thing over the rest because then the mentor can recommend you which books to read, which videos to watch, where to go, where to not go, what try to do, how what to add to your portfolio. So yeah, I will say these things. I share like this knowledge, the book, Patrick Collins videos, and then the mentor will make a big difference in your Web3 career if you are getting started.
Santiago, thank you very much for your time, for your experience, and for sharing all these recommendations and your point of view on current state of DevRel in Web3. So I'm sure that your knowledge will be very helpful for everyone. Guys, if you have any questions to Santiago, you can leave them under this video in the comments or reach out him on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'll also leave his links to social media in the description. So Santiago, thank you very much again. And good luck with your Africa trip, and hope to see you the next events, maybe
Yeah,
DevCon.
yeah, for sure. No, thank you so much for the invitation here today. I'm really happy to be here. And it was an honor for me to just help you to try to get more into DevRel to reach developers, to help people. I'm sure that we will get some nice videos from this interview that will be really useful for developers to get started, to learn, for non-technical people to get into technical things in
Yeah.
Web3. So that will be really nice. And yeah, no, it was a pleasure for me to be here. Really happy, and hopefully we'll see you in DevCon, right? Or somewhere else. We meet almost like at every event.